Mindset. Mental attitude is the most important lesson taught at gunsight.
Mindset. The problem of doing it. What do you suppose happens when a man who has proved that he can hit a package of cigarettes 9 times out of 10 at 25 yards confronts an armed enemy at arm's length and misses him 6 times in a row? Happens. All you got to do is read the newspapers. You have to read them with a certain amount of critical analysis because it's hard to find such things as ranges and so on. But here you have a man who has proved that he's a good shot, but when he has to shoot, he misses. And he misses in a ghastly fashion. I mean, misses you would not believe. I've heard people, when I've served as an expert witness in court, actually raise their hands, judges and prosecutors, say, you mean a man could miss at 18 inches? Yeah, could. Does. Now, none of you here is going to miss that paper down there at 18 inches. You're laying them out at 10 meters, which is quite a ways out. And you will do better than that before the course is over. But the question is, when you need to do it, will you do it? And that is the purpose of this exercise this afternoon. Of the people who have taken this training and who have subsequently met lethal violence and who have survived with flying colors, not one has told me that he did so because we taught him how to take the heads off daisies at 50 yards or how to fire 2,900 out of 3,000 on a numerical course. On the contrary, every one of them told me that when the flag flew, he knew how to think, and that what saved his life, that of his wife, that of his associates, that of his children, what saved his life was what he learned on Wednesday afternoon. Now, it's a very important part of the course. I emphasize it, and I will go on and show you why I think so. You see, there's this problem. We are basically programmed in our psyches to avoid inflicting lethal damage on other human beings. We don't want to do it, and it's a good thing. We wouldn't like people wandering around who like to kill people. We find them once in a while, but we take steps. The point is that every one of you here and I and all the instructors have a strong barrier up here in the mind against doing it. You say, I know I can, but should I? And that's something we have to address. I have talked to a great many people, well, not thousands, but scores, who have been, in effect, killed in action. How is that? It's because when a man is laid out unconscious, he might as well have died. So if a man is taken off the field in a stretcher and brought around in the hospital later, his mindset at the time of his death is exactly the same as if he had died. So I have talked to these people in person, and I find that the overwhelming impression that all of them had at his last waking moment was astonishment. Not fear, not agony, not despair, not regret, but surprise. What? What's going on? We teach junior officers, you know, that a man can be forgiven for being defeated, but never for being surprised. Now there we're getting to it, you see. How do you avoid that awful feeling of, oh my God, this is unreal? Change the channel. How do you avoid that? Well, there's a process by which you can avoid it, and we are prepared to go into it now. The human animal says, oh yes, these awful things happen to other people. They don't happen to me. And when suddenly you see it happening, your attitude is, no, wrong, bad scene, I don't want this. Now we have to be able to confront that. All of you are here because you feel that under certain circumstances, you may have to shoot for your life. If you didn't feel that, you wouldn't be here. So when I tell you you've got to realize that you may have to shoot for your life, your answer is, well, of course. I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't pay the money. I wouldn't take the time. But you know, there's a different thing between stating it intellectually and feeling it in your psyche. It can happen to you. It does happen to people, and you are not exempt from the newspapers. Nor am I, nor is anyone. That's something we have to get firmly in mind. News is not something that happens to other people. Now, what that means is, you see, that any one of us in this room could conceivably have to use the cartridge which is in the barrel of his pistol at this moment in a blood confrontation. Does that shock you? It shocks some people. That pistol I'm wearing on my belt, I may have to use before I take it off this evening for serious purposes. It's not likely. Certainly it's not likely. The great majority of people in the world go through life without ever having to fight. But that doesn't mean it is not going to happen. These safety devices, principally your pistol, can be compared to a life jacket. I have never had to use a life jacket to keep me afloat in a rough sea, but I still carry one. So they say, well, the odds against your getting dumped over the side in a rough sea are practically infinitesimal. I know, but I've still got a life jacket. So you see here, in addition to your weapon, you have to have the mindset, which is an essential part of your weapon. The ability to overcome this frightening reluctance to do what you must do. Now, the first step you take is to make up your mind that these things I'm telling you are true. You have to be aware that the thing can come to you. Once you have made that decision, it's rather like a decision you make in a revival meeting. I will come down to the front of the classroom and say, yes, it can happen to me. And when it does, if it does, and we hope it doesn't, when it does, your attitude in your mind is not going to be, oh no, oh God, no, oh this is unreal, change the channel. It's not going to be that. It's, I knew this would happen, and I can handle it. I can't emphasize that strongly enough, because these fights that have come back, you see, I'm not going to apologize for the effectiveness of this presentation, because I have so many feedback. And they come up and they say, when I saw that gun, when I heard that noise, when I saw these people doing these things, instead of saying, oh no, I said, oh yes, this is something I can cut. This is something I went to a lot of trouble to learn. This I can handle. You know, we had a fascinating scene that way once. People say sometimes, enemy types, that if you learn how to be good with a handgun, you'll be trigger happy. Other way around. We have a graduate who took the course. He went back to his gun shop where he worked in Indiana, and when it came to him, he gained complete control of the situation, and he did not fire because his adversary had no chance. And people asked him, they said, John, why didn't you shoot that creep? I mean, he'd be better off. He's no good to anybody, including himself. Why didn't you shoot him? You had every chance. You had no question about the legal right. Or you were trying to be a humanitarian, huh? He said, no, I'm not a humanitarian. It's just that I didn't feel any pressure. I didn't feel there was any problem. He said, I felt I'm completely on top of this. He said, I had 2 pounds pressure on a 4-pound trigger, and the range was about 18 inches, and I said, you just blink, mister, and your head is going to be all over the far wall. But I didn't feel any excitement because I commanded. Now, you see, that's the situation that you can get from this. You can get to a point where you can actually pull the old Gunsmoke thing of Matt Dillon and say, don't do anything silly, mister. You lose. And that sounds melodramatic. It sounds like an old Western. But so help me, that's the way people feel under those circumstances. I know because they've told me so. Now, that is the first step you take. The fact that you're not going to be surprised. Never. Nobody in this classroom is ever going to be astonished if he suddenly looks right into the lion's mouth. He knows the lion is there. He doesn't expect the lion to be waiting outside his kitchen door. But if he sees the lion, he's not going to be astonished. He's going to say, lion, right, problem A. I have answer A. And that's where you get off the ground. That's where you get the ability to set yourself into a situation where you will not be taken off base when the flag flies. We have too many of these cases where people who are real handlers of a pistol just go to pieces when they see a real situation. The result of our studies can give us a mindset program which will do wonders for you. At least they have done wonders for other people, and we hope they will for you should you need them. Now, the difficulty is that you can't go through life in a condition of prickly alertness. You can't spend the rest of your life with your hand hovering around your pistol butt. We can't live like that. In the first place, it's nervous. In the second place, it isn't appropriate to the situation. But what we can do is train ourselves to shift our mindset from one condition to another and give ourselves a tremendous edge over our adversary in terms of readiness to do that fearful thing. That fearful thing is to press the trigger when your front sight is in the middle of somebody's chest. You don't want to do that. You resist doing it, and you should. But if your life depends upon it, or the life of your wife depends upon it, you must. So how do we make the change? This way.